news of Jarrod Bowen signing a new contract, not only is it, for the obvious reasons, very good for West Ham, keeping a player of that calibre, but Riley, I want to talk to you a bit more what it actually means in terms of the right message it's sending about West Ham at the moment, because let's be honest, this is a big, big statement from the club. West Ham just lost Declan Rice. It wasn't long ago West Ham were offering Rice very similar kind of contract to him, offering him to make him the highest paid player, to secure his long-term future, make him the focal point, etc., etc. And obviously, as we well know, he didn't accept it, and he's now no longer at the club. Make no mistake, Declan Rice leaving West Ham was not a good advert for West Ham at all. It didn't send the right message. He's selling your captain who's 24 years old, who's in the England squad. It just doesn't look good. It doesn't scream. I mean, straight away, funny enough, I know someone from who I work with who's a Chelsea fan. The first thing he said to me, West Ham selling club. That's the thing with West Ham. They are known as a selling club. And it really hurt me to hear it, because I thought, I don't want us to be known that, known as that across the football world. But, there was that concern that Bowen was going to go. There was a lot of talk of Liverpool being very keen, Arsenal again, Newcastle. But, he's committed his future, Riley. It sends a big, big message, doesn't it? I mean, obviously, we talked about it already in a previous video regarding, I know you've already recorded on this, but just to go over that again, mate, quickly, your thoughts quickly on the Bowen deal. I'm assuming you were absolutely thrilled.
Yeah, I think it's something that I really wanted to be able to tie down for the club. And like you say, it was starting to get a feel of like maybe we are a bit of a selling club, Obviously, Paqueta might leave next summer. Could have left this summer. Obviously, we did play hardball on Rice, so I think maybe the term selling club is quite harsh. I think when you look at a selling club, you think of someone like Brighton, who bring up these, take a hint on these stars and then sell them for big profits, and then bring in younger stars and then try and get the, it's like a rinse and repeat. It's probably the most successful business in.
I think you're right there. I think we're not selling club. I think maybe stepping stone. Maybe. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'll go West Ham, and I'm only going to be here for a short period. I'm off. Yeah. Sorry, go on, carry on, mate.
Unfortunately, to be fair, I do kind of agree with that, because, like I've talked about in previous videos, you could be naive to it, but West Ham do have a glass ceiling. In my lifetime, I don't think we'll ever compete for the title. I mean, I don't think that's an outrageous thing to say, but I might get stick in the comment section for it. And to be honest with you, I think maybe once or twice you might get Champions League with the way we're at. Maybe. I mean, trying to break into the top four now is just going to be so difficult with teams like Spurs, Newcastle, Arsenal, City. I mean, it's going to be nigh impossible. West Ham do have a glass ceiling. We have a limit of how much we can spend, the players we can attract. It's just a fact, I'm afraid. And other clubs do have higher glass ceilings than West Ham. And you've got to remember that these players, yes, they're loyal to the club, and yes, they probably love the fan base, but at the end of the day, this is their job. This is their livelihood. Are you going to be stuck in a job that you really enjoy and you enjoy all the people you work with, but you can get somewhere else, better money, better this, maybe better chance of getting in the England squad, better chance of playing, better football. You got to look at it sometimes that, these aren't just the football players. This is their livelihood. This is their lives. So yes, you can question loyalty, and yes, you can question all of that. But unfortunately, West Ham are in a position, and we're in good company. I'd say that Brighton are technically a stepping stone club, and so are Aston Villa, and so are Newcastle to an extent. There's loads of clubs, I think, in the Premier League that you could class as being a stepping stone, but also are really good clubs that, I think play really well. I think we're actually quite privileged that these players who are just on the cusp of greatness are actually, sitting there like, oh, do I play for West Ham, continue to play for West Ham, or do I try and make the next step up? I think that's a great position for us to be in. We're not mid-table and getting our team, our best players poached. Do you know what I mean? But with the Bowen thing, I think the exciting thing for me is that he's bought into the project, and he thinks that actually staying with West Ham and fighting to get them higher than their glass ceiling is better or means more to him than just going to another club already reaching that high ceiling and trying to get somewhere else. So for me, I think it's a testament to his character. And as much as I won't judge other players for making that leap, I think it just endears a player even more if they're willing to do that leap with the club they're already at in West Ham.
Yeah, I mean, it depends what you are as who you are as a person. As you say, you can't begrudge people for what they want. You know, we can't begrudge Declan Rice for having an aspiration to win the Premier League or win a Champions League. Okay, you know, the fact he chose Arsenal, that's irrelevant. And I know some fans are a bit annoyed by that, but that's not the argument. His choice is to Arsenal because he feels that he's got more of an opportunity to win the Premier League. And let's be honest, he's right. Like, Arsenal are going to challenge for the Premier League title this season. They could well win it. West Ham aren't at that level yet. I'm not. I do know what you're saying when you say West Ham are capable of winning the Premier League. I know what you mean. The step up is big. Don't get me wrong. West Ham aren't a million miles away. We're not a million miles away, but there is a big difference in terms of us and those top sides because of just the players they've got. They can attract like a world class player for every single position. We can only attract a few, and then we, as you say, they tend to get taken from us if they do so well. So look, Jarrod Bowen. Clearly, he's endeared himself to West Ham fans, hasn't he, massively by committing his future. And I like the fact that he's one of those players. I think that he recognises where he's at. You know, he recognises it's a big football club. We're doing well. There is a bright future ahead. I see certainly a bright future. Is he going to be winning Premier League? Probably not. Champions League? Probably not. But it will certainly be challenging at the top ends of the table. As you say, I can foresee some Champions League qualifications coming up. I really can. I'm not saying it will happen this season, but if someone says to me, would I be surprised if it happens in the next 5 years? Probably not. Like, there's a chance we might get it. We might win the Europa League, mate. This season, that's not out of the realms of possibility. I really do think we've got a good chance. We are a pretty decent European side now. I'm just really chuffed, and what I love about it more as well, I think it just sends the right message about West Ham. Aston Villa have just had it. They've just had Ollie Watkins sign, I think, a 5-year deal. That's a big statement. That he is a striker that the likes of Liverpool, Manchester United, etc., would be looking at. Arsenal, no doubt, would probably be looking at Ollie Watkins, thinking he could be leading the line for us. He could be, and that player has chosen to stay at Aston Villa. And Jarrod Bowen's just as big as that. That's a really big player. Make no mistake, Jarrod Bowen easily could have gone to Liverpool this summer and be captain of the Premier League title next season, easily. Probably be in the Champions League next season, but he's chosen to stay at West Ham. What I think as well is going to be quite interesting is the impact this is going to have on the players we've got at the club. The likes of your Lucas Paquetas. Zuma, I can't imagine him going anywhere else now, to be honest. I'd be very surprised. But there's a few players in that team, a Gerd. I just think there's players that you kind of think, are they really happy? Kudus. All right, he's only just put pen to paper on a deal, but let's make no mistake. If he carries on the way he is and becomes the player we think he is going to be for us, make no mistake, there'll be clubs sniffing around for him next summer. I'm sure of it. So I think the fact that Bowen signed that contract, I think just sends the message to these other players as well that, do you know what, this is a place to be. You don't need to be looking to move on. The question is, mate, do the club capitalise on this momentum? Do they now go to Paqueta's camp and say, right, we want to improve your deal? We don't want him being sold because as we all know now, it's kind of an open secret, isn't it? That there's an £85 million release clause in his contract. Maybe try and get rid of it. Just say, look, Bowen hasn't got one as we know now. So maybe try and renegotiate with Paqueta. Do you know what, mate? It wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if West Ham try it, and I wouldn't also be surprised if Paqueta would be quite tempted to stay because one, he's doing very well at West Ham. He knows, he knows that. I know he's got this thing hanging over him, but I actually think that this betting allegation could also bode well for us because West Ham has stood by Paqueta. We've not banned him, we've not we've not dropped him and made him feel. We've stood by that player completely and gone, "You're playing. We trust you." He looks like a happy man to me. If you're West Ham, if you're Tim Steidten, if you're behind the scenes, mate, what's your next move? Are you going to try and improve the contracts we've got of other players around, even if they have just signed, if they're only a year in, or do you stay put and think, no, we'll wait? Or what's your feelings on it?
Well, what I will say is that job becomes a lot easier when you do get other players to follow suit. So getting Jarrod Bowen on a 7-year contract. If you've got a load of these good players on short contracts, then maybe a player sitting there thinking, right, well, yeah, I'm playing with so-and-so and he's really good and he's one of my favourite teammates, but he's on a short contract. What if he leaves? I've got to think about my future. Whereas having someone like Jarrod Bowen then commit 7 years, you think to yourself, well, I know Jarrod Bowen's going to be here. Now Antonio's going to be here. If Zuma renegotiates, if Aged, obviously Liverpool sniffing about him as well. If he agrees a new deal, you're thinking, right, I've got all these players at West Ham who are more or less guaranteed to be here for the next couple of years. Do I make that step up? The other thing I think that hangs over your head is there are a lot of players who have been really, really good players who, when they've made that step up, have really struggled. I mean, Jack Grealish really struggled when he first went to Man City. Calvin Phillips may have ruined his entire career because he went to, I mean, I think he'd be doing better at West Ham than if he had gone to City the way he did. There's quite a lot of players that make this big step up to these clubs, and they've earned the right to do that. They've earned the right, but sometimes it's not the best move for them. You're going to play week in, week out for that West Ham side. You're going to be the star player. They're going to offer you crazy money. But then also you've got the thing in your head like, oh, I can play Champions League football, I can play with Haaland, blah, blah, blah. But I'm sorry, Pep Guardiola on a match day, is he going to pick Kevin De Bruyne or is he going to pick Lucas Paqueta? He's going to pick Kevin De Bruyne. Is he going to pick Rodri or Paqueta? He's going to pick Rodri. So you've got like one position in that squad that you might be able to get in. And I think maybe Bernardo Silva probably would get in ahead of him at this point. You've got Phil Foden as well. There's so much competition. Alvarez, so much competition to get into that Manchester City squad. But of course, the lure of Manchester City is just so big because it's just such a massive club. I think even if you sit on the bench, you still get your winner's medal, you still get your money. But yeah, you're completely right, mate. Tim Styling his next move should be going to Lucas and saying, look, I know there's this whole thing in the summer. It's forgotten about. It's a new dawn. It's a new day. Let's get that release clause out. We don't want to lose you. That even 85 million for us is nothing. It doesn't matter to us. We don't want to reinvest that in another player. Bowens said he's going to stay. We've got plans. We're negotiating with so-and-so to get them to stay. We've got plans to sign this many players in the summer. You got Kudus, blah, blah, blah. And as well as that, if David Moyes can get a long-term contract or some sort of manager can get a long-term contract, that's a good thing for a player to say, okay, well, if he's in a long-term contract, I know the gaffer's going to like me and I'm going to get on with the gaffer because if Moyes leaves, who knows what would happen if another manager came in and didn't want Paqueta or didn't suit his play style, blah, blah, blah. So long-term deals are really important for players to establish themselves and make sure that their future is secured, and they will follow suit in doing that. Personally, I think Paqueta will probably leave next summer, but there's no point in not opening negotiations with him. We have to put something on the table. I thought maybe Bowen was going to leave in January when Liverpool sold Salah. That might not be the case anymore. It doesn't look like it's going to be the case anymore. So we've absolutely just got to slap some sort of offer on the table and, do what we tried to do with Rice and have done with Bowen and say, you're a part of the project. What do you want?
Yeah, I mean, and absolutely no. There's no chance Bowen will go now. Like, there's no way that player will be with us at least for the next 3 or 4 seasons, the very minimum. I think very minimum. I don't think we've got any concerns there with him. I think you're right. I do think that the club needs to strike with the irons hot, as it were. Pardon the pun, but I do think we do. I think the club needs to now keep going because, as you say, you want a settled squad. It gives players comfort. If you're looking around and you're saying, I think with Declan Rice leaving last summer, I think it did create uncertainty. And I think we felt it last season. I think as fans, we felt it. I think the players probably felt it. It's not great having your captain that's got one eye on the next. Don't get me wrong, he handled himself fantastically well for West Ham. He was exceptional last season. Not taking nothing away from him. He won Hammer of the Year, deservedly so. He was our best player. So got no problems with that. But it just didn't send the right message. It might have made Bowen hesitant. It might have made certain players hesitant. Do I really want to commit my future? Where is this club going now? I'm not quite sure. That this Bowen move is not just. If you remember going back to when we signed a new deal with Dimitri Payet, we did the same with Arnautovic. Yeah, they were basically like bullshit deals, weren't they? Oh, they've signed a new contract. It was like a 1-year extension on the existing 2 they had. And basically, it was just a pay rise. It wasn't a proper commitment to the club because 5 minutes later they were gone. This is different. This is I'm staying here for But Bowen said himself, I want to stay for the rest of my career. It's massive, really big. And although there will be some doubt, I know you've just said yourself you think Paqueta will go in the summer. It could well be, but. Do you know what? It wouldn't surprise me, mate. It wouldn't surprise me if he'd be tempted to stay. It really wouldn't. If West Ham could put the right numbers down in front of his agent and say that we will make him, like Bowen, the top earner of this football club. We'll get rid of the transfer, the buyout clause and all that kind of stuff. We'll get rid of that. Yeah, release clause. We'll get rid of all that. And you can commit your future here. I think it can happen. All right, might not sign a 7-year deal. We might not be up for that. But I wouldn't be surprised if we're up for signing about 4 or 5. He might well say, I'll commit my next few years at West Ham. I would certainly be going for it, definitely. It's a big period for West Ham, mate. This is a good time. And this Bowen news is just, I don't know about it. It's just fantastic. It really is. It just cements where we are at the moment. This is a club that's going places, it feels. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful moment. And yeah, Jarrod Bowen, mate, stay. And I really do think this is going to have a real positive knock-on effect for this club.